Hi, welcome to the June report for the Marketing Assistance Program by Parks Ag Solutions. I am Erin Parks, and these videos are topics that I see relevant, or if I keep on seeing the same conversation come up, that's usually what these videos are going to be about. And the topic that keeps on coming up right now is corn yields. With the weather and the extended drought and dryness within the central US, a lot of people agree that the top end of corn has been taken out. Not everybody, I understand that. But the USDA was using a relatively high yield, very trend line yield at the beginning, and with the USDA in June. And we're just going to look at some different scenarios and what ending stocks look like at different corn yields in the United States. So we do have a slide presentation this month. So let me share that. All right. So yeah, we're just going to talk about, different corn yields that are lower than the June report, and then what those ending stocks end up looking like. So in the June USDA report, they changed very little. There was a slight increase on both beginning stocks and ending stocks on corn. Now, the USDA will release its acreage report at the end of June, which is just a couple of days from when I am recording that. These numbers on the June report is just purely based on surveys. So farmer surveys and seed sales surveys. So for what we're going to look at today, we are leaving all other factors of the USDA report the same other than yield. So what we're going to look at doesn't change acres, doesn't change exports or usage or demand or anything like that. That would be another video. So this is what the June report came out with, and they were using a yield, again, very trend line at the 181.5. That was putting ending stocks, I was just calling it a 2.3. So with beginning stocks, using the same numbers, ending stocks being a 2.3 billion carryout. Now, let's start looking at some different scenarios. If we use a yield of 178 even, and all numbers are the same, that is putting ending stocks just below the 2 billion mark. So call it a 1.9. or maybe even a 2.0 if you wanted to round up. Yield at 173, this is where things are starting to get interesting. Yield at 173 puts ending stocks closer to that 1.5 billion carryout. Again, we're not changing usage or demand. The 169 US yield has been the lowest I have personally seen, but you may have seen something less. And you can plug that number. It's just a calculation, right? So you can plug that number in. But if that 169 yield would turn out to be correct, our ending stocks would drop down to a 1.2 billion. So as a reminder, the closer we are to 2 billion, the more comfortable our carryout, the more comfortable we are on usage and stocks and everything like that. The closer we get to a billion single, things get tight. That brings up some concern. So looking at the 23 crop, the USDA's average farm price is currently at $4.80. Again, that's using the 181.5 bushels per acre. So just to compare, the 22 USDA average farm price was at $6.60. the ending stocks is probably going to be about a 1.45. And you go back to the 21 crop where the average farm price was at $6, that ending stocks was a 1.37. So as you can see, as we were getting lower on ending stocks, that did help the marketing year average as far as the prices go the last couple of years. Now, does that necessarily mean in 23 that we're going to see, if we go to that 1.5 or 1.3 billion, that we're going to go to 660? No, that's not what I'm saying. But it just means maybe we are going to start to head in that direction. And there is some differences this year compared to the 21 crop and even the 22 crop. So let's talk about the 22 crop first. So ending stocks could still increase. There is still the debate that we're not exporting enough of old crop that could then increase the ending stocks of the 22 crop, increasing the beginning stocks of the 23 crop. Corn acres will be updated at the end of June. We have really no idea what that number is. Could it increase? Could it decrease? Absolutely. But whatever that number is in June, that's pretty much what we will stick with until September. There could be more declines in exports. So not only in old crop exports, so not only the 22 crop, but we could see exports decline in 23 as well. And one thing, this kind of goes on with the next one, the Brazilian crop has been monster size on both corn and soybeans this year. So what that does, this is what I want to make sure you're aware of. So what that does, because their crop is large and because their crop is cheap, you see then who would usually be buying in, say, September, now may not buy until October because they're going to buy Brazilian product. Or maybe you had an end user usually buy in November, and now they're not going to buy until December, again, because they're going to be buying that Brazilian product instead. So where our window for exports in the world used to be this size, the window probably for the 23 going into 24 is going to shrink. And that window is probably going to be more of this size. So we do need to be greatly aware of that. That is a huge difference in the 23 going into 24. Next, Ukraine production, we have no idea. That changes constantly of what we're hearing is going to be produced or what isn't going to be produced. And then there's just global economy woes. We have seen interest rates affect not only in the United States, but across the world. There is still some talk of COVID and some of the economic backlash of that. And of course, weather has been variable across the whole US this season. And it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. Now, I will say this, in our area, Southern Illinois, Southern Indiana, Kentucky, what we have seen is just some rains, others no rain. Some get a half inch, some doesn't get enough to wet the ground. So it is highly variable, and usually, I'm not going to say it's 100% that'll happen this year, but usually around the 4th of July, we do see the rain pattern shift. So we could be headed into that situation as well. I heard a great quote about a week and a half ago when things were getting volatile, weather was getting very uncertain, still is. And here's what was said: if your crop is making bushels, it's probably time to be selling bushels, because what we just don't know is what our final crop is going to be. It could be bigger than any of these numbers that we're talking about. And then also too, maybe it got to a point price-wise where you're profitable again. And I don't think anybody is going to be mad at you for selling grain at a profit. Of course, if you're missing, I got a lot of guys missing everything. I got a lot of farm families that are missing every rain. Obviously, that's not going to be a situation you would want to be selling crop into. I have said many of times, but I will remind you, forward marketing isn't for everyone. But these videos that we do is not to focus on forward marketing. They're to be something more of like to think about our topics. And like I consider this one more of an education video. My email address is erin@parksagsolutions.com. Feel free to email me. And let me stop sharing. So yeah, it's been a very popular topic here the last couple of weeks is what is our actual crop production and yield that we're going to have and how that affects ending stocks, which overall affects our price. So thank you for watching our June report, and I'll see you next month on the July report. Thanks. Bye.